Hi, Jen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Welcome back. We haven't done a chat in a while, so it's
Oh,
high
love it.
time we connect again.
Yeah. Well, it's been busy, right? You've been busy. I've been catching up on the you and Ange.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
good
There's
girl.
lots going on for sure, and we're in, our third lockdown now, and so Jen and I have talked a little bit about what we want to cover today, and we actually want to dive in on spring cleaning. From a couple different angles, but before we do that, how are you finding this lockdown, Jen?
I'm finding it a lot tougher this time.
Okay.
Uh, I noticed for myself, I actually just had a conversation with my husband in regards to it. My anxiety is a lot higher this time around. There's no real difference. It's it's just a lot more. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that um, this time last year, we held on to a lot more hope and
Sure.
that in a year, things would be different. And
In
we're a
two
year
weeks,
in.
right?
Yeah, we're a
In two
year in.
weeks, we would be in a different spot.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are feeling the same way I am, I would assume, because it was there's a lot more people going, well, I did everything that I was supposed to do, and look, I still can't see the people I love, and I'm still struggling, and I still don't know what the right answer is, and I said, myself is it's the same. Like it's like, is it ever going to end?
Yes. And that I think is kind of the overarching thing for a lot of people is before we felt it was very temporary, but now that this is the third time, it's like, is this permanent? Like, is this right? That hope piece is something that I do see a lot as well, and that a lot of people have kind of lost. And that's where those other emotions kind of sink in, where it's that anxiety, depression, isolation is really that really bright light at the end of the tunnel doesn't seem very bright right now for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Grief is really high too, right? Because you've got now we're getting into people who have passed away a year ago
Mm-hmm.
that still haven't been able to have a celebration of life and are still waiting to have their final goodbyes.
Sure.
It's not happening.
And that's right. You think about over a year ago, every single holiday, every single long weekend, every single wedding, every single funeral, every single birthday, every single right. We've got my kids are at a really young age, so birthdays are kind of a big deal still. And people are into their second lockdown birthday, right? And that's where it's kind of like I could do one. I could do one birthday where it's like, okay, okay. But two feels like a lot, right? Especially when that's such a big piece for children, and to kind of take away that piece that normally would be there is a little bit soul shaking, I find.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
Hmm. So, and then, yeah, you think of funerals and weddings, those are like the biggest parts of life, and welcoming and goodbyes and births, right, are another thing that really have been affected. And so, yes, I think we are all struggling to manage this for the third time, for sure.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it because we haven't been able to, like, you've been closed here and there, and um, you're still doing distance healing. There's a lot of people that have been, I'll wait until things get back to normal and I'll get back on track.
For sure. Right. I am actually in kind of the massage category, so I actually am able to be open
That's awesome.
and would remain open anyways, even if I was supposed to close, which maybe is not something I should be saying. But to me, I think what I'm noticing is I can't turn my back on people who are in crisis.
Yeah.
I am I understand the need for government. I understand the need for rules and expectations. But to me, and I recognize there's a physical piece, right? That COVID piece. But to me, that risk does not outweigh the benefit. And
Yeah.
so when people are in crisis with anxiety or depression or struggling with kind of coping with this, to me, these types of things like Reiki, meditation, those are more needed now than they ever once were. And so to eliminate that, and if I get in trouble for that, then I guess I get in trouble for it, but I can't
For caring.
morally. What's that?
You get in trouble for caring,
And
essentially.
I can't. And so what I think I understand the need for government rules, all of that, but
Yes.
my moral compass, I have to follow that first. My intuition has to be kind of at the forefront of that. And so, yes, we're going to we're doing all the things. We have policies in place that kind of make it obviously part of what we're supposed to be doing, but I can't morally, I can't consciously close my doors. So, and that's all based on the client's comfort. If the client is comfortable, right? I have some who have flipped to distance healing just because of that kind of fear piece. So, yeah.
Well, and that's okay, right? Like, it goes back to understanding that everybody
for sure,
doing what they can in order to make it work for them.
For sure. And I don't want somebody coming here feeling more anxious about having to come here, right? The whole point is to actually alleviate that anxiety. And so,
and knowing from my own personal experience, like, your hands don't have to touch another person. So there is that level, and the sanitizing and everything else. Like, there's a lot more protocols in place to keep us safe. So it's kind of one of those things that you have to do what you can do.
For sure. Absolutely. And so how are you finding online learning? You've got Lex, who is in grade.
I'm doing online learning right now.
Oh, that's fun. And so Lex is in grade
2.
Oh, she's in grade 2. Okay. And what about Haley? Like, Bradley's done school, right?
Well, he did go back to school for a little bit. He was going to go back again. And then he's decided online isn't his forte because he was doing tech courses.
Right.
So you can't do hands-on tech if you're not hands-on.
Really? Yes.
Yeah. So he was going to go back, but he's just decided he'll just doing work experience and go from there. Haley is in her final quadmester because they've got it chopped up a lot more. And she will be done. She starts her next section on Thursday. Okay. Now, we're hoping it's not online for very long because they're both hands-on courses, and that's right. Thankfully, we are an artist household, so one of her courses is art. I have everything.
I was going to say the materials that she will require are already in your home.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that won't
have
those things, right? They could be the only artist in their family, right? Like here, everybody's an artist of some sort. So that's a little bit easier. And then her other course will be construction. So we have a couple different ideas for how we can make that work. Once again, not only are we artistic, but we're blue collar too. So
Rob is in that industry, right? I know he doesn't do construction exactly, but he's in the trade. So it's not going to be a far stretch.
Enough to have a little bit more tools and stuff so that we can actually teach from home. Right. It's just not ideal. I've learned I need my time. I need my time to spring clean and get the shit moving so that I can go for the next day. So that's the big part.
And so before we dive in on the spring cleaning, I know I keep putting it off, but I want to, for the people who are listening to us, you have a child in high school, right? End of high school. And you also have a little girl in grade 2. And so how are you managing that online piece? What tips and tricks would you give?
They've been really good at doing their own. So we do with Haley, she's in grade 10. So if she can't manage her own schedule at this age, then I've done something clearly wrong. Right?
Okay, yeah.
And there's a consequence level. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. But guess what? You're going to get a big fat 0, and then you're going to have to take the course again.
And so, she recognizes that consequence.
Yeah, it's a lot of natural consequences here.
For sure.
For Alexis, we do 3 days online typically and 2 days offline completely. So she jumps on for the meetings with her teacher, but everything else she does pencil and paper, because we found that she couldn't handle.
For sure.
And she loves being online. Like it wasn't that. It was just, we noticed her she just wasn't thinking the way that she normally was. Like there was a heightened silliness and lack of focus and everything else. And I was like, we've got to do something. She was just a bear by the end of the day. So we have great teachers for her. We've had 2 great teachers during this pandemic, and it's made a difference. We just integrate it wherever we can, and they appreciate that. Sure. But I'm fortunate enough to be home. Like I don't have to go to work. I can do most of my stuff from home.
Sure.
So I can be here if need be. I can also leave if need be. It's happened, right?
Yeah. So. And I would say that's been a really big blessing. I know that this is the 3rd one and it feels like a lot. But for this time, Felix's teachers, again, incredible, phenomenal teachers. And they've just said, like, we know these kids are getting too much screen time. We need them to do what works for your family. A very gentle approach. Whereas I feel like that first one was like everybody on, everybody this, everybody that, right? It was like tons of small group instruction, tons of whole group instruction. There's lots of live stuff. It's like, whoo. And this time that's all like, there's a recognition of the stress levels. There's a recognition of kind of that piece towards this maybe isn't the best route for learning, right? And so
that was the first thing when we jumped on today, because this was the first day. It was, I get kids like, I wish I could see you face to face too. Mm-hmm. And that validates their feelings, that they don't even know, like they're 7 and 8. They don't understand their feelings. They just feel it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So the teacher is then validating, saying, yeah, I wish we were on the climbers. I wish you could see your friends. I wish you could be in class, but we can't. So,
and that validation of, hey, I'm not trying to make the best of this. I recognize this is a situation and I'm going to label it for us, and I'm there too, right? Yeah.
So there's a lot more sharing and like, what did you do today, or what did you do over the week? Or so it is good. There's structure, yet it's open to interpretation. And I think I've talked to a lot of parents this time around about Alexis's age group, and they've said the same thing. Like they were going to maybe look into doing like every other day.
Right.
So it just becomes more of it is hands-on learning. Like right now we're in the middle of seeding, right? So we've got plants and we're doing photosynthesis at home and we're raking and we're finding bugs.
And that's part of it too. I think when, even if we're not doing school, right, that there's a recognition that our kids, not that the learning lands on us now, right? And so instead of just like seeding, you might have that conversation about like, so Lex, tell me what you know about seeds. And right, like, whereas that might be something we would kind of just allow school to have and teach and do their thing. And we would just they would be there and it would just happen, but it wasn't like this overt learning that I need to teach you this.
And amazingly enough, like this is all things that we kind of, and I know people are going to be mad at me when I say this, but this should have fallen on us in the beginning, right? Like teaching our kids hands-on learning, yes, doing this stuff, blue collar, sewing, art, everything that could have landed on us. And I get people are very busy, but it can be as simple as, hey, that sign's new. What does it say? There, you've read, right?
Yeah.
And
exactly. And I think it is good because I agree with you. I think the learning begins in the home and that's where it ends. There's this like kind of middle piece that we get kind of extracted from. And when we get busy, when we are, 2 people working outside the home, it feels like they've got it, right? Like they've got it. School will teach them that, right? Whereas this definitely brings it home in that, there's a sense of, and I think for me, very much, it's just it's more conscious now. When I'm outside and something's happening, I'm like, ooh, good learning moment, right? Whereas maybe I wouldn't have
that way before, yeah. But we became so involved in being busy and it's through no fault of just society. It's just we've constantly going, and I'm guilty of it too, right? But having kids older,
Yes.
having Alexis, like we had to teach Lex on the go because we were driving to Kitchener for lacrosse. So guess what? Read me the signs. It wasn't ideal sometimes, but she learned, and she learned how to add, right? Like, oh, they just got a goal. That's one more. Okay, so we're adding 2 + 1, right? But we definitely become more conscious now because it is on us.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think some kids are actually advanced now, and there are parents who are still working, but they're teaching their kids in so many ways. They've just got to stop thinking in the box and just go outside of the box and realize they're doing the best they can, and the kids see it.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. I totally agree. All right. So you did mention spring cleaning. We've kind of shifted a little bit. So how are you managing spring cleaning in your household, in your body, in your mind? How is that showing up for you? Because I think a lot of people are obviously in their homes. We're not supposed to leave them. And things feel cluttery. Like I feel like there's not that same sense of space because the people who I'm allowed to see are like on top of me, right? And then there's the people that are not supposed to see, and they're like way over here, right? There's this like big gap. But the people in my house with all of their stuff all the time, it just feels like, ah. So how are you managing kind of that spring clean piece? Or
so the biggest thing for me, it was the communication factor. Like I'd said, like speaking to my husband and saying, okay, like you're going out of the home. So yes, you're dealing with people all day as well, but you get that 20-minute drive there and 20-minute drive home that you can just whoosh. And I wasn't getting that. I was finding myself stuck and sludgy and still am. Realistically, you can only do what you can do. I actually purged a lot of my house. That made a huge difference in my brain because it's clear.
Yeah.
And I'm not a housekeeper. Like I hate housekeeping. I hate it. Absolutely the worst housekeeper in the world. However, I did notice that difference of when I took a moment to do that, I was actually taking a moment to be like, okay, this is coming through, and doing a lot more breathing techniques when I notice that I'm getting, just calling it what it is. Like today well, for lack of a better term, I'm bitchy. So mommy needs 5 minutes to be able to like whoosh it, whether it's go outside or do something. I just had a kid trip over toys. Right. It was just putting a name to it that I didn't have to suck it up. Like, because that's what we do. We suck it up, we suck it in, and we forget to release it all. And it's a huge one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And our space is, so I know in the school system, this is something that they were really pushing, is it begins with the environment. So a child, they can't feel safe. They can't do their best learning unless the space is set up for that so that they feel safe, right? So if you think of those kids who are like standers, get them a standing desk, right? That semicircle table, right? All of those things and having a clear, calm environment, right? And so that really kind of hit home for me because I feel anxious when my house is out of order. So with 3 young children,
all of the time. So I've learned to release that too, right? Like I've learned to disconnect that. So yes, when my house is in chaos, I tend to be a bit more chaotic, but I've learned to notice it, acknowledge it, and be like, okay, I actually can't control that, but I can certainly control this in here. And I'm going to choose to just put my blinders on for a minute, get things sorted, and then maybe tackle that chaotic moment, or maybe not, right?
Absolutely. And so I find with that, when I'm really struggling with that kind of environment piece, I know for me, it's a little bit OCD. For me, it's not necessarily about doing it all, right? It's about, okay, what room can I tackle? And often it's the bathroom because it's just like, it's a smaller space. It doesn't feel as like daunting. And so just going into the bathroom and quick cleaning the toilets is even like, okay, this room's done. Right? Or like picking up the towels or the clothes that have been left over from the bath or whatever. As soon as that space is clear, it's like, okay, I can go, the rest can be a bomb, right? But I know that that one space is clear. And so that like psychologically helps me just be like, okay.
See, and for me, it's my kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I noticed when I redid my kitchen, because I did that during COVID lockdown too.
Yeah.
When my counters are clean,
Yes. Counters are my thing too.
much
I need clear counters.
Right? Like it's clearer and I'm like, okay, I can tackle this. But
Sure.
it's not as simple. Like you think about spring cleaning and you're just cleaning out the clutter, and that's what we have to do, especially right now. You think about outside, you're peeling away the leaves and stuff that you had to protect your plants so they can grow. Well, guess what? We kind of have to do that here too. You have to take away that winter frustration, the locked up, the miserableness. And I say that because it's totally me. I'm not a winter person. And it's just removing that shit.
Yeah. And I think part of it too, right, is we know that winter for all of us, right, is kind of like a hibernation-y, like we're closing in, and some people love it like that, like cozying in. And now it's springtime, and that's when, you know, new life emerges, and we get to like see the buds, and the grass is growing, and the sun seems to shine more for whatever reason, right? But we're still hunkered down, right? And so it's like, I'm supposed to be blooming, and I just
and I'm not. Yeah.
Blankets go back on. Right? Like it makes me think of the song Wake Me Up When September Ends.
Yes.
It's like,
yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
That's what I said actually yesterday. We turned on the heat yesterday because I was starting to get cold. And when I get cold, I get very, very cranky. And I said, I have decided my house is going to be summer until summer comes. That's so we're in, like, I think Haley had shorts on yesterday. Like it's just like, I want it to be tropical in my home.
I love it.
I am going to argue this weather until it's summer.
I am with you. I am with you. I have the fire on in the bunkie right now because I'm like, we're going cozy. I just need it to be hot and warm and wonderful. So that's
But
fun.
even still, like we did spend a lot of time cleaning everything out and get everything ready for summer. But it is still like in my brain, I haven't been able to get that because there hasn't been enough nice days for me to get out, ground properly.
Right.
Like it's like a quick, oh crap, I've got to ground really quick right now because I can feel myself levitating. So okay, we're done. Okay, go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once we hit warmer temperatures and we can get outside and we can clean outside and get that winter crap away, it'll be easier for our winter crap to go in hibernation, right?
And so what are some of the tools that you're using right now, Jen? Knowing that you're in that headspace, right? And knowing that, you know, the weather will change, it will shift, we'll get outside again. What are you doing right? Like for all the people who are exactly in that same boat, what are you doing to help manage that?
Accepting it.
Okay.
Like that's a big one, right? Like, okay, so, and I had a migraine last week. That's why we couldn't do our Zoom call. And it was accepting it. It's like, okay, yeah, no, today is a crap day. Done. And that was a huge one. The biggest thing is we started doing the seeds and everything else. So I'm seeing the growth in my hot tub room because it's warm and it's covered. And I actually bought a bird feeder that's stuck to my window so I can see all the birds come in. And seeing them being resilient and fighting with each other over seeds, that's a huge one, right? So it's a lot of visual reminders for me. I started slowly adding spring flowers into my gardens outside. So I'm seeing that and I'm like, okay, yep, I can do this. I've been doing a lot more breathing techniques and recognizing that I needed a break, which is a huge one for me. Like, as you know, I'm mom 110% of the time, but I noticed that I needed to just go for a drive.
Yeah.
I needed to go get a coffee. That's it. And I didn't even need the coffee. I just needed to go and just be me for a few minutes. And that was enough to just kind of get things reset and focus. I've been doing a different breathing technique. So
I was going to say, can you take us through one of those?
So I did it actually. I was at the dentist and I had started to get one. I was like, no, we can't do this right now. So it was breathe in for 4, right?
Yeah.
Out for 6. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, that's easy.
It was super easy. And I was just sitting there because she thought I was playing the piano. And I was like, nope, just trying to get things. And what I typically do is when I breathe in, I actually visualize the warm sun breathing in.
I love that.
When I breathe out, I visualize, but because actually when you and I first started going, it was chunks of concrete, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically what I blow out is little tiny chunks of concrete out my mouth and getting it out. That makes a huge difference, right? Because you do feel lighter.
You do. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's something simple and nobody knows, like I can do it in my pocket and it's just nobody has to know you're doing the breathing technique if you don't want them to know. That's what I like about it.
Yes, I agree. And I love that it's like short and easy and fast. It's not like, oh, I need to sit for a half an hour and meditate. Do that too. Like that's a great, but when you're in that crisis moment, that's not when you need that half-hour meditation. You need a quick fix, something that's like, I got to get through this.
And if you've had to do a breathing technique, like, so what I usually do is if I've noticed that I've needed more coping skills that week, then I have to take extra time at some point on the weekend because that's when my husband is home and I know I can kind of get away for a little bit longer and I need to find a place to get centered. Right? So if I'm requiring coping skills to get through the whole entire week, then I need to amp up my game.
For sure. Recharge your batteries, right?
Yeah. So, and that's kind of where it goes. And it just usually is in the bush or wherever. And it's just like, I need to clean that stuff, right? Like the leaves have kind of settled in and I have to get them out.
Rake it out, right? Like you've got to, yeah, absolutely.
You can visualize that rake too. Like that's what I find is if you visualize, like I have a big green plastic rake and when you rake it across the yard and it cleans out that garden and you see that fresh green stuff sprouting up,
absolutely
visualize that, right? Like that makes a huge difference.
Yep. And that's something you can add into the breath as well, right? Like that breathing in is the grass growing, breathing out is the rake, right? Breathing in, breathing out. And like one of the things you mentioned was grounding, right? And that's a really huge component right now. And so just making sure that we are doing those pieces, whether it's through meditation, incense, essential oils, getting outside in your bare feet if the sun is shining.
That's the thing, right? Like a lot of people don't realize that even just going and being barefoot outside for 15 to 20 minutes and just walking around on different parts of your lawn, that is grounding. It doesn't have to be so complicated.
Right. Absolutely. Simple, easy, right? Again, that comes back to that, like right now I need this in this moment, not later for a larger chunk of time, right now. Absolutely. And so I think for sure. And one of the things that you mentioned, Jen, that I think is really powerful is when you said, knowing that I can't and then being done with it, right? It's that quick forgiveness, right? That we are so quick to forgive ourselves when something doesn't feel perfect, right? It's like, oh, I really wish it was this, but it's not. I'm done with it. And I forgive myself and everybody else for it not being perfect.
Yeah. Can I fix it now? No? Okay. Done.
I'm good with it. Yes, exactly. Versus kind of clinging to that expectation, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
That was a huge one for me to try and release and the guilt, right? Like that's still one that I always struggle with. And I probably always will because I'm the mama. Like I'm the mama bear to not just my kids, but a whole gaggle of other kids. And when I'm not on my game, I'm like, well, like I'm not just failing myself, I'm failing them all. It's like, wait a minute, no.
Right.
No. I need to just stop and go, okay, guys, mom needs help.
For sure. And the learning that comes from that is really, the teaching that you're doing with that is so powerful, right? Because you're teaching them that they don't have to have it all together. When they get to the place where you are, they don't have to have it all together. You can fall apart. because I'm allowed to fall apart. You're allowed to fall apart. It's not like, oh, well, when I become a mom, I need to like make sure everybody's okay. I need to make sure I do everything for everybody because that's what you're teaching your
They
girl.
can't cry, see me, you know. It's like, no, I'm sad today, and that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. And it gives them permission when they, right, that when they're in that same boat, it's like, okay, mom can fall apart. I can fall apart. We can all fall apart, right? And that's really
Fall apart, but we all get to adjust our crowns and move forward, right? Like that's the our house is you. Well, my husband always says you have one feeling. You get one feeling with him, and it's like, yeah, right. However, we've always said you get a day.
Mm-hmm.
After that day, then you have to start making that plan on how you're going to get out of that funk. And if it's depression, anxiety, we all recognize it, but you still have to start making baby steps to figure out how to fix that.
Yes,
going forward.
Take the day, but then, right? And
you feel the feels and then you go. And that seems to be a huge one for a lot of the teenagers, right? Like, is there, I can't, because if I feel this, then I'm this. And no, you're fucking sad. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Feel it. And then
spring clean it. Let it go. Right? Yeah. Like release. Yeah.
Break it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Perfect. So,
yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Jen. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Is there anything else that we should be touching on here as far as?
I think so. Like, I think most people, I think, just listen to us babble and then they're like, oh, wait, yeah, that actually does make sense. And I think we've learned not to have a plan because
we do better without one.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. So yeah, I think everybody just needs to take a moment this week and just find something small to be grateful for, or just to enjoy, and stop being so hard on ourselves and others.
Sure. Absolutely. And thanks for sharing those breathing techniques. If anybody has any questions, just pop anything, or if you want more or less as far as tips and tricks and tools, just pop them into the comments below and we'll see what we can cover the next time we do get chatting.
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Thanks very much, Jen. Enjoy your chilly winter, spring, summer day. Whatever this is.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thanks, hon. Bye.